What I like to do is take something apart, clean it, and then put it back together immediately so I don't have all these little parts laying all over the place. So let's go ahead and start with the stock. Go ahead and open it all the way to the 5th position. There's a little spring right here. Just grab that spring and push it all the way down, and your stock will slide right off. Take your clean cloth, wipe it off, look for mud, dirt, debris. Look inside the stock, make sure there's no dirt, debris in here, and then once you're done with it, just slide it right back on. Use your finger and push that little pin down, and it'll slide right back on really easy. Next, let's remove our bolt, and it's really easy with the quick change spring. Right in front of the trigger is a switch. Press it down all the way, and then rotate your bolt to the 90-degree position, and then it will slide right out. On the front of this fake magazine is a tool to help us take this bolt apart. In front of the trigger housing is a little button. You just press it forward and your fake magazine pops right out, and those 2 little nubs on the top is what we're going to use to take our bolt apart. Go ahead and set your stock aside. Take your little tool on top of your nozzle. There's 2 little holes. The 2 little nibs on the front of your fake magazine fit inside those 2 little holes, and then you can screw your nozzle off. Once you have your nozzle off, inside your cylinder here you'll find your piston, your spring, and your spring guide. To take your end cap off of your cylinder, you're going to need a large flat-bladed screwdriver. There's a little bolt right on the end of your end cap. Go ahead and take that off while holding your end cap down because it is spring loaded. There are 2 little pins and 2 little springs in here. You don't want to lose those. Now go ahead and remove your bolt handle and your spring guide rod from inside the cylinder. Now that we got our bolt apart, all we want to do is just take the pieces, wipe off any oil, dirt, residue. Just make sure everything is fairly clean. After you wipe off the end cap and get all the grease off of all of these pins, take a little bit of silicone grease and you want to squirt it down into the hole of this end cap. Wipe off any excess, reinsert the springs and the pins, and set it aside. To reinstall the bolt handle, take your cylinder and add just a little bit of silicone grease to it. You just want a sheen. You don't want this thing to shine, and then slide your bolt handle on top of your cylinder. You want to make sure that little slot in your cylinder is facing down for the reassembly. Take your spring guide rod, add a little bit of grease. You don't want this thing soaked with grease. What you want is just a little bit of grease on the outside of it so your spring guide can slide easily back and forth, and then reinsert this back into your cylinder. On your bolt handle, you'll see 2 little notches. These 2 little pins fit inside these 2 little notches. On this end cap, you'll see a small circular area and a large circular area. This small circular area goes opposite the direction of where your slot goes, and make sure those 2 little pins slide evenly into those slots onto the bolt handle, and then reinsert your screw after putting a little grease on the threads to protect them. Once the end cap is screwed on, double check your handle. It should click at the 90-degree point and then click when you push it all the way down. Put a little bit of grease the same way you did on that spring guide rod on the outside of your spring guide. What you want to do is keep this smooth so when your spring slides across your spring guide, it doesn't bound up. You do not want to put any grease or oil on your piston at all. But what you can do is take a little bit of this silicone grease and slide it on the top third of your spring. That way, when the inside of your piston slides across this spring, it doesn't bound up. Take a little bit of grease here and put it on the threads and the O-ring of your nozzle. I have sorbo pads. I don't want any oil or grease on that. Next, we have to take our spring guide and we have to align it with the spring guide rod inside the cylinder. That could take a couple of seconds, but you'll get it on there. And then screw on your nozzle. On the outside of the cylinder, I like to apply just a very, very small amount of grease. Just enough to give it a little bit of a sheen. You don't want to soak this thing. To remove the stock, you have 3 hex screws. You have one here in front of the magazine well, you have a silver one inside the fake magazine well, and on top, underneath the bolt, is another one. Whenever you remove a screw from your rifle, go ahead and wipe it off with a clean cloth. Inspect the threads to make sure there's no broken threads or any dirt or oil or grease in there, and then apply a new bit of grease to the screw threads. That way it'll help seal them and also lubricate them good so they won't rust when it gets wet. I keep bringing this up because it's important. Get yourself a magnetic bowl. Put your screws in it. That way if you knock it over, none of the screws come out and you won't miss anything when you're trying to reassemble your rifle. After you remove your stock, take a good look at the inside of it. Make sure there's no dirt, no debris, no oil. Do yourself a favor and wipe it all down, inside and out. Your buffer tube here is held in place by a hex screw here on the inside of your rifle. I honestly don't see a need to ever remove it unless it gets really loose or it gets really dirty or damaged and you have to replace it. On your stock, there's a plate here held in place by 2 hex screws and a QD point. This is so you can take this QD point and slide it across to the other side when switching your rifle from right-hand operation to left-hand operation. And I made a video showing how to do that. I honestly don't see a need to remove these except maybe once or twice every 4 or 5 years. And then all you need to do is just clean the threads, re-grease them, and then put it all back together. This is your barrel assembly. It's composed of your outer barrel, your inner barrel with hop-up chamber, your TDC, your loading block, your trigger assembly, and also your Picatinny rail. Your Picatinny rail is held in place with 4 hex screws. You can take those off if you want, clean and re-grease the screws, and then put it all back together. Your trigger, to be quite honestly, I've had my SSG10, both of them, for over 5 years now. I have never ever had to do any maintenance on the trigger group, so we're not going to do anything here. But go ahead and take your trigger off, and it's held in place with 2 hex bolts here and here. Once you remove your trigger assembly here, go ahead and take your magazine release off of your loading block. Your loading block is held in place by 2 Phillips screws, one here in the front and one here inside this hole. Go ahead and take your loading block off. Take the mag release assembly, press the button a couple times to make sure that the catch slides smoothly inside the release. You also want to wipe it off with a clean dry cloth and then apply just a little drop of silicone oil to the top. Press your button a couple times to work that oil in there. That way it slides smooth. Take the loading block off and wipe it down with a clean dry cloth. No oil or grease on this thing at all. None. To remove the inner barrel, we have to remove the TDC, and it's held in place with these 2 hex bolts. It slides right off very easily. On top of the thumb wheel is a little O-ring. Don't lose it. There's also a little O-ring here on top of your hop-up chamber. Make sure you don't lose that, but it comes out fairly easily. Just add a little bit of grease or oil to these O-rings, just enough to give them a sheen to protect them. Also, on the bottom of your TDC, this little adjuster here, you can screw it in and out to add or reduce tension on your hop-up chamber. To take out the inner barrel in the hop-up chamber, just take your thumb and push the hop-up chamber. The barrel will protrude out the end of your outer barrel. Just pull it out. Go ahead and inspect your outer barrel, especially on the inside, this portion here underneath the Picatinny rail, because that's where your bolt slides back and forth. Use your finger as best you can. Look down in there and make sure there's no burrs or dirt or grease. If there is, wipe it out. The barrel is held in place inside the hop-up chamber by friction. Go ahead and remove this screw here and pull your barrel out. And you'll notice that your bucking does not come out with it. The bucking is still inside the chamber and we have to get that out. To remove the bucking, we have to remove the nozzle guide. The nozzle guide is held in place by this flathead screw. Go ahead and unscrew it and 3 pieces will come out. You'll have the screw, you'll have a spring, and you'll have the nozzle guide itself. Go ahead and set those aside. If you look down in there, you can see the bucking just on the very outside edges of the hole inside the hop-up chamber. Just take your barrel cleaning rod and slowly work it out. Removing this bucking is a pain in the butt, but you see I have a little bit of grease on it. You want to make sure that you take all that grease off this bucking and inspect it. Make sure that it's not ripped, torn, or any dirt or debris on it. Wipe all this grease off, because that grease will make this bucking swell up and you'll have to replace it. Put a clean alcohol pad on the end of your cleaning rod and pull it through the hop-up chamber. Under no conditions, push it back through because it'll bind up. Keep doing this until your alcohol pad comes out clean, and replace the alcohol pad every time you run it through one time. Wipe the outside of your inner barrel with a clean, dry cloth. Check your centering lug here. Make sure there's no debris. Make sure the O-rings are clean. Don't put any grease on them at all. You also want to clean the inside of your barrel the same way you clean the inside of your hop-up chamber. Put your cleaning rod inside it with a fresh, clean alcohol pad on the inside. Pull it through, and as you pull it through, turn it slowly as you pull it to make sure you get any debris, oil, or grease from the inside of it. And you want to keep doing this until you have a clean alcohol pad. Put on a new clean pad every time you run this cleaning rod through it. Reassembling the hop-up chamber in the inner barrel is a little tricky, so pay close attention, because if you screw this up, your gun won't work. Your nozzle slides into your hop-up chamber here on the side with this rubber gasket. If you look really closely at your nozzle guide from the side, you'll see that it has a small angle here and a large angle here. That large angle fits on the end where your nozzle goes in. The slot there makes it really easy to slide it in. Just make sure that that big angle is pointed towards your gasket. So if you look at the spring that sits on top of your nozzle guide, it's thick at one end and thin on the other. The big thick part goes down on top of the nozzle guide. And also, if you look at the back of the screw, you'll see a little nipple. And that nipple fits inside that little bitty opening inside the top of the spring. Go ahead and screw this in place. Again, no grease or oil inside your hop-up chamber. For a sanity check, you can go ahead and take your nozzle and see if it slides easily into your hop-up chamber. If it does, you installed it correctly. If it has a lot of resistance or doesn't go in, then you put that nozzle guide in backwards. Take it apart and reinstall it correctly, and then check it to make sure it slides in easily. Inside the bucking is a little shelf, and this shelf is maybe about 1/4 of an inch from the end of the bucking. If you try to install the bucking incorrectly, it won't slide on. Just turn it around, it'll slide on easily. Here's the window of your barrel. On the other side of your inner barrel is a little slot, and this slot helps us to align the barrel inside of our hop-up chamber. So go ahead and put on your bucking, and what we have to do to get this bucking inside the hop-up chamber here is we have to install just a tiny bit of oil to get it to slide inside. Once we do that, we take this little slot, we take your hop-up chamber here, here's the screw where your nozzle guide goes in. Turn it around, and then we're going to line up this slot here in the screw with this slot here on the barrel. And we're just going to slide it inside slowly and easily until the two slots line up perfectly. And once they do, you can screw your barrel back onto your hop-up chamber with this friction nut. Now just take your inner barrel, your hop-up chamber, slide it back into your outer barrel until the holes on your hop-up chamber line up with the hole on your outer barrel. Once those holes lined up, go ahead and screw your loading block back on. Your mag release is friction fit. It fits right here in this hole, and you can see how they made up. Just slide it in place and it will stay down on its own. Next, we have to install the TDC. Now this is another gotcha. If you don't install this correctly, your rifle isn't going to work correctly. On the bottom of your TDC is this little aluminum thing here that pushes down on your bucking that applies hop to your BB. It has a little step here. The step goes towards the end of your barrel. If you reverse this, then your hop up will not work correctly. Go ahead and put your O-ring back in place on top of your TDC, and then make sure that step is pointed back towards the end of your rifle. Take your pieces, put them together, and screw them in. So go ahead and take your trigger box, squirt a little bit of silicone grease down in here, because a lot of times when you shoot, this spring will twang inside the trigger box. Putting a little grease in there will keep that from happening. Now go ahead and reinstall your trigger box. Now reinstall your stock, and remember, the short screw goes on top, the silver screw goes inside the fake mag well, and the larger screw goes in front of the mag well. Now here's another gotcha people are having when trying to reinstall this bolt. Take your finger and hold that switch down in front of the trigger, and then slide your bolt back into place. Now you take your finger and you push the switch up, and when you do that, the bolt locks in place. A lot of times you actually have to take the bolt and put it up in the 90-degree position to get that switch to lift up. Now take it outside and test it, but let me give you this little piece of advice. It's going to shoot completely differently than when it did before you took it apart. Put a couple hundred more BBs through it, get all those parts in here to settle. Thanks for watching to the end. I really appreciate you guys. I got more SSG11 videos right here in this playlist you can watch. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you could, give me a little bit of a hype. I'd really appreciate it. This is Shreq. Over and out!